Welcome, and thank you for joining us today on the Leadership Café, where we talk to extraordinary people leading remarkable businesses. We're your hosts. I'm Richard Citron.
And I'm Michael Couch. And in times like the disruption that we've all been facing in 2020, we found it to be very entertaining as well as enlightening to turn to some of our finest local and regional leaders and find out how they are handling all this from a leadership perspective, how they're directing their businesses, how they're leading their employees, how they're helping other leaders, and also contributing to our communities to try to help everything run a little bit better through some rough times. And I think we can all agree that that's useful right now.
I agree with that.
Okay, good.
But before we get too far along, we want to thank our sponsor, Vaco, a global talent solutions company. We really appreciate their support of the Leadership Cafe. You know, if you've been listening into the cafe, you know that we've had some really amazing leaders come in, but it's rare that we have a chance to talk. I have a chance to talk to a leader who's been a mentor for me. So I am so grateful to have Aradhna Oliphant joining us today. Aradhna is president and CEO of Leadership Pittsburgh, which I can say is the premier leadership development program in the region. I can say that because I am a graduate of Leadership Pittsburgh.
Which class, Richard? You have to say your class.
Class 24, the best darn class ever, as we say Leadership Pittsburgh. And, you know, Leadership Pittsburgh, and there are these leadership programs all around the country, but Leadership Pittsburgh is one of the oldest ones. It's been around for 37 years of classes that have been contributing to leadership in this community, and there are programs in all communities that are making a really meaningful difference in how communities are thriving and growing, and particularly during these times. So Aradhna, thank you for joining us. It is great to have you with us on the Leadership Cafe.
Oh my goodness, well, what an introduction. Richard, you are a mentor of mine. And Richard, you have served as an executive coach for me and my team. So, my goodness, this is
it's the best coaching relationship is mutual.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
that's the best way it works. So there's learnings all around. But it is great to have you with us. So tell us a bit about your background, how you got to where you are, and of course some things about Leadership Pittsburgh as well.
Wow. Let's see. I'll take the personal first, because it's, you know, we all have these personas, especially in jobs like the ones that I'm privileged to hold, that people don't get to know you really, right? I mean, so I'll take the personal first, because I trust the both of you, you know, So I'm an immigrant to the country, not just to Pittsburgh. So, but Pittsburgh was not the first place we landed. I came here as as a result of what we in this country call a pre-arranged marriage.
Yes.
Wow.
And that's not something that most people who know me now go like, you?
I just about fell out of my chair on that one. So.
But anyway, and Pittsburgh was not the first stop as immigrants. We were first on, you know, the East Coast, right? That's where immigrants generally come, East and West Coast. And so we were on the East Coast, and about almost 20 years ago now, one thing led to another, and we ended up in Pittsburgh. And we thought, my then husband and I thought, we're going to be here for like 3 years. We were young then, you know, we do the young stint of, you know, young couple and go back to the East Coast. I was not working outside the house at that point, and he was in the financial services industry. PNC was not as large as it is now. It's one of the largest banks. So there was not that much activity going on around here in his line of work. So we thought we'd go back to New Jersey, where he had some of his family too. Well, he's not here. I'm not married to him. I'm still here. And when I travel, people think I work for the mayor's office when I used to be able to travel. I love Pittsburgh, and I didn't want to come to Pittsburgh. We have raised two wonderful boys, who are young men now, in Pittsburgh. And They love Pittsburgh. One of them might be moving back to Pittsburgh to grow his business here after having worked for McKinsey. And so, I mean, and I'm married, remarried. I've got two wonderful children from my husband's first marriage. I've got a cute little dog. She's a mouse. So that's a little bit about me. I live on the east end of Pittsburgh and love living in the city.
Great, great. Is your pet a COVID dog, or you've had your pet for a while?
No, my pet is what we call in my house a hopeful daughter-in-law dog, because my daughter-in-law to be liked that pup. And I didn't want it, and she came with us to the shelter, and my husband and I was going to walk out of that shelter. I was not ready for another dog. And my husband looked at her face and said, look at her face. She might be your daughter-in-law at some point. She loves this dog. I didn't know he was playing me. So of course I bought that dog. The daughter, we did get that daughter-in-law, but she's in Singapore now with my son. But my husband knew how to push my buttons.
Good. Nice story. Yeah, so of course, here on the Cafe, we talk about leadership, and there's so many different angles that we could approach this, given your work with Leadership Pittsburgh, and then, but also the multiple boards involved in the communities. But why don't we start with Leadership Pittsburgh and the perspective? So you're about ready to recruit class number. What are you up to now?
The class number of the program that Richard went through, which is our senior established leaders program. We started the class. It's class. Okay. Yes, just started the class. It's class number 37. We have a young leaders program or an emerging leaders program, and that class is 28. They have just started. The retreat is tomorrow. We met a few of them last night. The strongest ever showing in our LDI class in terms of number, quality has been maintained. As strong a class of Leadership Pittsburgh, which is our senior leaders class, as last year and years in the last 5 years. So about 60 people. But the most important thing is the quality is rock solid in both the programs. So our board did a fantastic job. Nice. And it also shows, Michael, that people are the right people. The people who care about community are not going to be daunted by the challenges of may not be able to meet in person.
Sure.
But one of my board members said as we were recruiting that, frankly, those people who don't want to engage with our programs because some of it might be virtual, we really don't want them in the program. Those are not the leaders. Times have changed, and those leaders who are not willing to adapt and actually gain new skills and new networks and new perspectives while this is happening in our region are not going to be community leaders in the long run anyway. So we don't want them.
So,
excellent perspective. Yes.
This is one of the interesting things, and I alluded to it earlier, that there are these leadership programs across the country in almost every community. Yeah. And what I think is so interesting about Leadership Pittsburgh and these leadership programs is that it's different from other leadership programs, and it's not just talking about how to be a better leader in your business or with your management team. It's really about taking the leadership skills and doing something not just for your business, which would be an obvious result, but also about how to be a greater leader for your community. And this idea is I think so powerful, and was certainly a big draw for me. Because it takes this notion of leadership beyond yourself or your immediate world in greater service to something more meaningful. How has Leadership Pittsburgh accomplished that, and what's different in that kind of leadership approach in your retreats and your training, in the training programs you do with your leaders every month, Aradhna?
So yes, you hit it. Actually, our name is a misnomer, but there is so much attraction behind the name. There's so much brand value attached to the name that we have considered saying, should it be called Leadership of the Pittsburgh region? Because that's what we are, right? We are not, but people see us and say, see the name and go, oh, I got my own leadership. I am a leader already, those kinds of, well, by the way, the people who say I'm a leader already, those people we don't want anyway. So, so it is about leadership of the region, and it's not just even Pittsburgh. We have candidates even in this year's class, all the way from Waynesburg and Westmoreland County and Beaver County and all of that. So it's the regional approach. The Leadership Pittsburgh program, which meets about once a month, the meetings are around an issue of importance to the region. So there is, there is a mentor of mine, another mentor of mine, Richard, in the field, not locally, who says you can't lead a community you don't love, and you can't love a community you don't know.
Yes.
So think about that. The other principle we hold very dear to us, I believe it has biblical roots. I'm not Christian, but I believe it has biblical roots. So you all can correct me if you know, that of servant leadership. A leader is always in service of others, other people. Those other people could be their own teams. We hope through our programs, what they get is how to be a better leader in service of things which may not be just about you, your family, your quarterly bonus, perhaps even just your own school. None of those things are bad. They are not, but to look beyond yourself. And that's what a community leader is. Mm-hmm. And how do you do it? So we expose people to issues, we expose people to existing leaders, we expose people to strengths, we expose people to opportunities in the region. And that's what the curriculum is all about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think the perspective that you bring there, is what we've heard as a theme, throughout the cafe. Mm-hmm. So I think it's the broader community, the greater purpose. We heard it specifically from nonprofit leaders that during a challenging time when there's all this pressure, we step back and remember why we're here. What's our mission? And, what's the real overriding purpose? There's a greater good, and their longer term perspective makes all the difference in doing a quick pivot. Yeah. So, is that how you perceive it as well?
Oh, there are, at any given moment, you can talk about resilience that Richard talks about in his book, and you all talk about in your new book as well. There are lots of ways of looking at leadership. The biggest thing for a leader is, in my opinion, is self-awareness. That's where it starts. Yeah. If you don't know who you are, what your challenges are, what are you going to tell others? Yeah. In the long run, you need to know what you stand about and be flexible in listening about what others stand for. The purpose is not just for the nonprofit world. Governmental leaders should ask, and the good ones do. The business leaders should ask, and the good ones do. What is my purpose? I'm a CEO of a large company. What is my purpose? Is my purpose just to milk the stock for my own gain and be out of there? Is that the legacy? Mm-hmm. The good business leaders don't talk like that. Yeah, they value the stock market. Yeah, they should. That's their job. But they always talk about what is my purpose here. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Nonprofit leaders can talk about what is my purpose here because of the world that we live in, right? I mean, our purpose by definition should be larger than what our organization is, because our organization is there to serve a larger purpose. Right. Good leadership always asks, why am I here? What is, yes. In fact, in our organization, we start almost every meeting, and now it's become a joke. Like we start with, so we are gathered here for, and we always have a purpose check-in.
Excellent.
That's great.
Yeah, we start off a lot of our work with organizations, of course, around strategy, greater purpose. But there's a quote from Peter Drucker when he was asked about leadership and leadership development. His first question was, "Well, leadership for what purpose?"
Well, for what
And
purpose?
and it's got to be a perspective that leaders bring and consider all the time.
And you mentioned something. Yes, I'm privileged. I am old. I've been around a long time, and I'm an Indian woman. People need diversity on their boards, I guess. Yes, so I have been privileged to. And by the way, that's not a bad thing. You should have diversity on your boards.
Yes.
Not just me. That's a very good thing. Even on the boards that I'm privileged to serve on. Oftentimes, I see conversations going in a certain direction because board members are just swooping in only once every 4 months, once every 2 months. And they know and care about what they care about at that minute with the limited amount of intelligence that they have. And this goes across the board. Governmental commissions, business sector boards, nonprofit boards, university boards. It's very easy for board members to go, one thing comes up and they go chasing the squirrel.
Right. Yeah.
What I have found is that the right board leader, whether it is another board member, or if the CEO is a strong board partner, is to say, can we just take a step back? Why are we talking about this? Why are we thinking about this? And so I think that asking the why is extremely important, because if you don't know the why, you'll probably do the wrong thing.
Yes.
So as you think about 2020, Aradhna, and the pandemic, the issues around racial and social equity, women's issues, all of these things have become so prominent this year and have really, just honed our focus. How have you seen leaders respond to these kinds of challenges, and what's been your thinking about how to address these issues within your organization, as well as in the larger community? Okay,
so those are a lot of different questions.
You can pick one.
Okay. All right. So I'll just say this, and then if we have time, we can come back to it, is that I worry about the advancement of women in leadership, about what this COVID situation is going to do to women in particular. And so I can come back to that later. I really worry about the young women, especially the ones with children at home. And if they are a part of a dual career family, I worry about the women. More. I mean, I'm a mother of boys. It's not like I don't worry about my men, but I worry about the women.
Say more about what your concern is for women in that situation, and women's leadership in relationship to the pandemic. What are those concerns about?
So as Richard and Michael, you both know, we have a young leaders program, an emerging leaders program, leadership development initiative. When I talk to the young women in particular in those programs, like last year, we had to pivot in the middle of the year into going virtual. And this year we are starting virtually. I find them struggling the most if they're in a heterosexual married relationship. Let's assume a woman and a man, and both of them are have a career that they're both aspiring towards, and they have 2 little children. If the daycare center is closed, which it was during the pandemic in the early days, right, the woman has more of the burden of taking care of the children, no matter how caring the husband is. It's just and so they have really struggled. The young women have really struggled. And my worry is that in that struggle, they're going to lose the little advantages that we have made across the globe for women in leadership, and how much farther behind women leaders will fall behind, because all studies have shown that that it is in that gap between their first management job and their second management job. That's where the biggest drop happens. It's not in the entry, but that's where the biggest drop happens. And it is that what I worry about.
Yes.
Got it.
Because
Yes.
those are child rearing ages. Those are the places where, so I think our managers of young women or young caregivers who of people at that level need to be, if they want to talk about equity, they need to be hyper focused and be empathetic about that. You know, that's
even in the course of this pandemic, losing that year or you losing
Yes.
those opportunities can be significant to a woman's career.
Yeah.
Very significant. Imagine losing 1 year of opportunities. And the other thing I caution our male colleagues is don't assume that because the woman has 2 children at home, that your empathy is not giving her the assignments.
Right. Right.
That's not empathy. We should not. I've been part of boards where the most well-meaning men have said, you know, we can't. Let's not ask her to do that. She's so busy. Like she's got children. Like why don't we change the meeting time so that she can meet while her children are in there at school? This is pre-COVID. You know.
Right.
So let's not be patronizing.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, and we are privy to research by 2 large organizations. They're keeping track of their employees. They're doing more surveying, which is fantastic. And they just did a follow-up survey in one 20,000 employee business, and almost beyond those who are in the retail setting, a very strong percentage of folks want to stay at home. You know, and male and female both. So this is going to continue. So the idea of how do you, we just talked with the CEO who is really pushing for, you know, project management and cross-functional teams activities to really grow and continue through this, because that's where the experiences come that build leaders, as you well know. So I think that's a very interesting perspective. It's something that leaders obviously need to be prepared. What does leadership development look like now?
Yes.
What does good career development look like now in a changing world?
Right.
And one-on-one contact of leaders with their stars is extremely important. They have to do that. If they find that person has potential, demonstrate your interest in them.
Yes, yeah, that's the other piece that came out of the global research that we were participating in, is that people felt that they were being very well communicated to, but they felt like they lost their voice. They lost the connection. So I think that's a phenomenon. So take the extra time and effort to make the one-on-one contact.
Listen, leadership is being called to service. Anyone, you know, what is that saying? Richard might have heard me use it. Anyone can captain a ship when the waters are calm.
Yes.
Waters are not calm now.
Right.
Leaders are being asked to do more, and they should if they consider themselves leaders. That doesn't mean that they don't take a breath and meditate once in a while or take walks in nature. They have to fuel themselves. You know, I don't want to, the original question that Michael, you asked was about the social inequities and economic inequities, and what is my perception on the 20, you know, as others have said, that is the other pandemic, and 4 centuries of racism is and maybe because we were all hunkered down, I don't know, that maybe that, of course, the tragedy of the killing of George Floyd, but during this era, when it was not easy to get distracted, is really bringing it to the fore. And we have to take it very seriously for the sake of our economy. Leave alone. I mean, there is a moral imperative and all of that, trying to set history right, all of that. But unless we, especially in this region, if we can't and don't address that inequality, keep falling farther behind other competitive regions.
Mhm.
So there's a lot that I'm passionate about here, guys.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We'll have to have you back for a second and third cafe session, I'd say, at some point. So.
Go ahead, Mike.
Yes. So we've touched on a lot here, but one of the things that we've been consistently asking across the cafe sessions is that we read every day in the news what the pandemic is doing to us, but we've been asking leaders let's switch that around. What has the pandemic done for you? And from your perspective, what might be some of the positives? What's some of the good things that might come out of this?
So this is going to come as a shock for anyone who listens to this and who knows me, that I'll again start with the personal. I thought I would hate working from home because I'm this, sort of this, I love people. I still love people, but I like to be around people. I am what people call a classic extrovert. What's interesting, Michael, is what has it done for me is, and I consider this a positive, is I've realized I'm not really that much of an extrovert. I'm an introvert. Mm-hmm. And that's positive in my world because many a times when we speak, especially as you all know, I deal a lot with business sector leadership, and people talk about those classic traits of extroversion being the best in leadership. I mean, you all know that, you're experts in leadership. That is not the real research proves that that's not true and necessary, but and so I consider it a positive. I'm much more of an introvert than I ever thought.
See, yeah, and that's that we have actually gotten to the point where we try to stay away from labels, like introvert and extrovert, because it ignores context. Yes. And when context changed, people who think they are one thing could actually be another, and for the most part, it's positive, like you've just described.
Yeah,
great discovery.
Yeah, because the leaders have seen their teams step up in ways they never expected when the challenge and this new context is here.
One of our teammates who is who's a wonderful thinker but doesn't talk that much unless invited to, she's blossoming in this modality, because if she starts to talk, let's say we are having a meeting on Zoom or any other platform, her thing lights up. So someone can't talk over her without realizing that they are talking over her.
Yes.
So, I mean, these are minor things.
Yeah.
They make a big difference.
And our team is more resilient. When I talk with other leaders, what they're discovering is they like getting to know their people. That's a positive. What I also find, what has the pandemic done for us, and I'm sure you have heard this from other people, it allows for innovation faster. Rapid prototyping. Yep. I mean, I always have loved that. I'm a big believer in design thinking and rapid prototyping. But now others around me in any setting that I'm in are also catching, not that they were behind, but it's become way more apparent.
Yes. Everybody's having to act more quickly.
Yeah, we had a great discussion with Lisa Scales, who I know you know from the Pittsburgh Food Bank, and she talked about the fact that they suddenly realized that there were people in houses that couldn't get out and get food, so they had to do home delivery. And they started talking on a Sunday and had it in place by Friday. And she said in the past that would have taken us probably 6 months and 7 lawyers to get done. But now they found out they could be much more innovative. And that has been a theme throughout the cafe. Innovation. We can be more innovative than we thought we could. We could be quicker.
Absolutely, because constraints, I mean, that's what design thinking is all about, right? It poses some constraints and says, think because of the constraints.
Yes. How do we use them?
And the constraints force you to come up with solutions that you may not otherwise have. Now, granted, I don't like this set of constraints because it has cost a lot of human caused a lot
Yes.
of human tragedy, economic tragedy. But if you take like really far removed view, this is a constraint. And I've seen banks sort of like turn around. I've seen engineering firms turn around. And Lisa Scales, of course, she's a tremendous leader. Very, very, very proud of the fact that we can call Lisa one of our graduates. And
Yes.
she's just remarkable. She's remarkable.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, in fact, Lisa, I think was in my class, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh,
Well,
I
See,
see.
that was a phenomenal class. Wow.
That's the best
That's
class
enough.
ever. I see.
Best class
I see.
ever. Yeah.
Well, go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, well, we could go on talking obviously forever. I always enjoy hearing your perspective, and I don't think I've ever seen you down either, which is phenomenal too. My family came here in 1980, exact same thing, thinking we would just be here for a couple years. Well, we're going to retire here, and it's just thank you for the contribution that Leadership Pittsburgh has made to supporting and sustaining the community that we really love here, and can't wait to see what's next.
Yeah, thank you. We don't do it. We do it through our alums like Lisa
Right.
and Richard and many others. We are just a vessel and a vehicle. Our work is done through the leaders, our alumni.
Yes, great.
Well,
Well,
rather, we want to thank you for joining us today, of course, and this has been an amazing discussion. What's a good way for people to reach you and Leadership Pittsburgh? Your website?
Our website, www.lpinc.org. Shoot me an email. My email is on the website.
Very
Right.
good.
great.
And
great.
of course, as thank you for joining us today. We're going to be sending you a copy. I know you already have one, but we'll add another one to your library of our book, Strategy Driven Leadership. We want to thank our sponsor, Vaco, for helping make the Leadership Cafe an important place to meet amazing leaders like Aradhna Oliphant. And remember, you can hear this podcast on our website, as well as the Vaco's website. It'll be posted on Spotify and other podcast sites, and hopefully distributed through Leadership Pittsburgh as well. We want to thank our amazing producer, director extraordinaire, Michelle Jarzowski, providing such amazing support, and for all of us at the Leadership Cafe. Thanks for joining in. I'm Richard Citron.
And I'm Michael Couch, and we look forward to connecting with all of you on the next Leadership Cafe.
Thank you.